back to the program. I'm Christine Nichlos, CEO and founder of People Science.
And I'm Jessica Oberto, Chief Operating Officer of People Science.
And this is Work Architects, which we consider ourselves work architects, right, Jess?
Yes.
Really busy this week. Today is July 22nd, 2026. Thanks again for joining us. On this program, we talk about the new world of work, specifically around talent acquisition / recruiting, aka recruiting, whatever you'd like to call it. People Science I founded the company in 1997, pretty much has devoted the entire organization for many years now, almost 30, I guess it'll be 30 years next year.
Right.
Or yeah, next year, next September, 30 years on how to solve tough talent acquisition challenges. From there, we quickly grew into an RPO. We also do contract recruiting, and we have our own proprietary software, Hiregate. This program is to talk about what we're seeing, what we're hearing, real life situations through our own recruiting, through analysis, and through what we're seeing and hearing, and most of all, from the feedback that we get from our client customers and people like you who are viewing. So welcome aboard. Let us know anything that you want to talk about. Of course, hit subscribe, follow us. We'll look forward to interacting with you. Thank you for those that are coming back. We have turned this into a weekly program by request. Thanks so much. So let's talk today about the new ecosystem of recruiting. So if you are a follower and you've heard some of this, we've elaborated a little bit more today, but let's talk about where it's really going. So where did this, Jess, could you pull that slide up? Let me just explain where we came up with this concept. So as talent acquisition advisory, we're compensated and we spend our entire time really looking at where is recruiting going? What does the ecosystem look like? How does talent acquisition interact with that? And probably we're best known too for elevating the talent acquisition profession, or that's our goal in the long run. So for the last, I'm going to say almost 2 years, I and Jess and other people on our team have spent a lot of time analyzing the effects of AI in conjunction with process engineering, the new talent ecosystem, how everything is intertwined. And then we established where we see TA going. We're now enacting this within our RPO practices and with our own internal practices. So come along on this ride with us and we'll let you know how it turns out. So do we have our slide up, Jess, or no?
I'm pulling it up right now.
We're going to break this into quite a few series, but today we're going to talk about that new talent ecosystem. And you know, when we were just getting ready to go live, Jess was telling me how she was telling a prospect the other day. What was the question he asked you, Jess?
He was asking me how can he, during a hiring surge, avoid a big recruiting cost? So, how would an organization respond to changing talent demands without continually having to face increased fixed recruiting cost?
Enter the talent ecosystem. Look at the timing on that. That worked out beautifully, right? So, it's always traditionally, and we saw this in 2022, right? And we also witnessed the failure of talent acquisition. Positions spiked up, everybody needed to hire, throw more people at it. It's like in talent acquisition, it's just like throw more money at it. Actually, it's kind of the opposite. It's like get more recruiters. More recruiters, we're going to get better results. The irony of that is that that doesn't work in any other department. I mean, if you're failing at recruiting and you're having a hard time, you wouldn't just amp up what you're doing, right? You would look at what is the issue and why can't I get there? My sentiment on this when I talk to CEOs and when I talk to CFOs in particular is, well, you can't control the people factor. And they've built their own models and their own P&Ls around the uncontrollable factor of people, which in my opinion also influences that, well, business is down, hiring is down, let's lay off TA. TA is something that we need now. We don't maybe need it later. It's an on-off switch. Well, that's pretty much the same throughout the organization. So why is it when it comes to talent acquisition, we're just saying we can't control many factors because it's people involved? There's absolutely no truth to that. There's always factors that you cannot control, but there are a lot of factors you can control. And working on it as well as in it is what does that. In Talent Act, we become very reactive. We get a rec, we fill a rec, we go after it. Everybody gets mad at us if we don't get it right. You get a big hip hip hooray one time if you get it right. And then you move on to the next thing, kind of forget everything that you've learned. That's evidence of that is not just in the end game of hiring. It's in the struggle. It's in the disconnect with the hiring manager. It's in technology. It's systemic to talent acquisition. So now is the time when we can turn that around. We can make a big difference. Starting with understanding what is the new talent ecosystem, because it's no longer, this is the whole big ecosystem of people. This is, I think it's like 6.83 million people that are in the workforce. Who can we recruit, right? So we were talking about that in 2023, like looking at that sector. In the last 2 years, we've come across this differently. We've looked at it differently because of the way computing power, AI in particular, is affecting the world of work. We're saying, instead of looking at a job description, what's the work that needs to be executed? I'm just pausing there to give you a chance to think about that. So what if you never got another job description, but you got an order that said, this is the work that needs to be executed? Because really that is what's happening, right? It's like, here's a job description, then you get a candidate and it doesn't match this and it doesn't match for that, because it's almost impossible. And that's also because the world of work is changing. The work itself is changing. It's no longer, this is my job, I sit in the seat and I do this. There's so many other factors involved, including looking at it from the 50-foot level, having good metrics to measure what you're doing, a lot of fine pieces. So that leads us to this new kind of ecosystem of people. How can I accomplish the work? When I'm talking about the job, I'm going to talk about the work. So starting with, the 18,000-pound elephant in the room is AI agents. So if you're to take her, we're laughing because it is the big elephant. Everybody talks about it, everybody's kind of gun shy too, right? AI really has become so sophisticated. I think this time last year when I was attending conferences, I'm like, yeah, but TA is still going to be needed, and we're still going to need it for this, and we're still going to. And I'm meeting with supplier after supplier and finding out, oh no, that can be automated. Pretty much everything in recruiting can be automated, and it is being automated. There's a lot of suppliers doing that now. Does it all work? No, I haven't found one that works all the way yet, and we keep looking. But I can tell you that the path is there to get there. And not only is the path there to get there, we're going to see even more of the automation get better as it not only becomes, quickly adaptable to what you need as far as recruiting is concerned, but it's also going to become adaptable at learning your business inside and out, far deeper than any one single person or brain can do, and bringing that talent back to your brain. So there's a lot of changes that are going on. So when we look at the work, the first thing we want to do is say, will this become a piece of work that will be accomplished through technology? And how is AI going to interface with that? What does that look like? And is that available to us today? So when we think about the ecosystem and work being executed through AI, I believe the future of recruiting is that we're going to need to know, let's say you're supporting customer service. We're going to need to know all the automation that exists to accomplish that work for customer service. And then we become the resource that says, this is the work that needs to be accomplished. This segment of the work, I feel like I have a supplier or a vendor or technology that can accomplish it smarter, faster, easier, and for less money. And then I, as the recruiter, now become a lot more than a recruiter. I become the advisor. I become the liaison to the vendor. I become the guy who's not only doing that, this is the point in time too, where we can make those recommendations to the vendors. Don't go in this direction, move in that direction. My company's going to need this. How can you customize that for me? Just if we talk about the early days of ATSs, there were some that did that. And when they came out of the chute, they were a better product than the end.
Absolutely. And again, like you said, Christine, I think it's important that, the question isn't where can we add AI? It's where is the work breaking down today and where can AI improve that outcome? But still understanding that organizations are going to need humans to manage those relationships, evaluate nuances, make sure there's compliance and fairness, and really connect hiring decisions to the business needs, building those relationships.
Becoming a concierge, we call it work architects. It's also, a concierge of understanding these. There's a lot of time and energy and intellect that has to go into determining what these vendors are going to supply, what they're supplying now, evaluating them, looking at cost, helping create the products themselves. That's a big job in and of itself. And notice it's just one part of the new ecosystem.
Right.
Moving on to the contingent side. I think the world of work, I mean, I remember in 1980, this book came out, The Clover Effect, and it made this prediction that by the year 2000, you'd see like a whole mass of people that were working as contractors and their own agents and this kind of thing. And that is really where contingent comes from, right? So for the sake of this conversation, we talk about contingent, we're talking about using temporary staff, contractors, and outsourcing entire segments. I think we're seeing outsourcing grow considerably. Of course, we have an outsourcing division, so we do look at it from that perspective. But also when you look at work across the board, right? Whenever there's a large market shift or something comes into your market, quite often it's a very smart decision. And if you look behind the curtains at McDonald's, most of CVS, of IBM, of a lot of the larger organizations that have been around for a while, when something new comes out, they babysit it from a perspective. They watch it, they engage it, right? And then they decide, is this something that's better outsourced? And even if it is an outsourcing partnership, they're plugging that now to make sure that they're getting all the wins of AI. Because when you go with the right contractor, or you go with the right outsourcing firm, what you start to see is, because that's all they're doing, they're really focused, they're myopic, they're able to get that myopic information and give it back to you. And a lot of these contracts we're now seeing also allow for a 2-year contract with the effect that you can buy it back into your organization. It's kind of like the old concept of franchising, right? I have multiple franchisees, multiple franchise organizations in different areas. I learn the market from them and then I buy them back, and that's how I grow. So I think that the outsourcing companies that are out there, and certainly contractors, can help organizations in this AI revolution learn the pieces that they're going to be able to take internally. I mean, have you seen any of that in your own personal work recently, Jess?
I have, yes. And really, I think the organizations that are doing this are looking or asking this question of themselves. If our hiring demand doubled tomorrow, what would break first? And that could be recruiter capacity. It could be hiring managers need to have someone in the seat. It could be the candidate experience. So being able to have a contingent workforce available for that amount of time to support the business needs, I think is extremely smart in forecasting and be able to hit that nut.
Yeah, and people might say it's a sign of the times, because I think AI is prompting companies more towards that. But
Mm.
the beginning of your statement was, how do we do that without just throwing people at it? I'm glad to hear they're asking, because that's been the challenge all along. Let's just throw more bodies there. And as an RPO, we come in and inherit the current state of recruiting, right?
Right.
No one ever calls us and says things are going really well. Can you come in and take over recruiting? It's like, we don't know what's wrong. We need to figure out what's wrong, or you already have the solve for this. So, bring it in there. But at least they're working on it and not just in it, as compared to, I'll just put bodies on this. Hopefully run into a market like that again, which I think we're kind of experiencing it because of the shortage of talent, but that will all get smarter and better funded. Okay, the next part of the ecosystem, and I know that most companies are already considering this, skills up, skill training, upskilling, some of the hottest terms since 2022, which was interesting. Like, it took a pandemic for the C-suite to understand that talent acquisition needs to change, I think. But, there it goes. In today's age, I would like to see recruiters move towards the analysis of what is my internal strength, work strength. How does it fit? Remember, now we're getting a work requisition. Does it make sense to train our customer service representatives that have a certain kind of profile, either an assessment profile or have shown indicators of sales, into our entry level sales program? This is just an example. Or, do we take our interns and train them up? How long will it take us to train them up to be an AI coder? Like, how does all of that intertwine? So what's my baseline that I need to accomplish this specific work? Do I have the internal talent? And if I do, how long is it going to take me? And consequently, how much is it going to cost me to train up? And what are the other advantages to the organization to that? And then putting a program through to execute that, but also making those tough decisions. Look, we need to hire faster. It's going to take us a year and a half to train up. It's going to cost us more money in the long run to do that. Let's just go with an outside candidate. But notice we didn't start any of this conversation of executing this work on who we're going to hire. We're still talking about the work. Now we're starting to say, this is the work, where's it better executed? And then moving over to referral programs. It's still, I just asked AI the other day, where did the bulk of new hires come from? This is a spread that I got on both chat and on Claude. It was like between 25 and 48%. I mean, not that that's a huge variance. Right. I think we've always said it's 40% comes from referrals, but having written referral programs, executed referral programs, I can tell you that so much money goes down the drain. Right, Jess?
Oh, yes, I've seen it.
We had worked a few years ago with an organization and a very, very, very tiny reach, and they needed to hire 2,800 people. Or I'm sorry, there's only 2,800 people in the country, and they needed to hire 400 of them. And it was
Right.
just so interesting to me because they then told the entire organization, you'll get $5,000 for every candidate you produce. And then everybody in the organization, it seems, went on LinkedIn and supplied a name. Oh, look at this guy. And then we're screening them and they're giving them $5,000. So looking at your referral program and making sure that it's layered is much more cost effective. But when it comes to this new work, looking at, how well are the referring employees performing their work? And are they going to supply people to you at that same level? And asking them in the front, asking them up front, why are you recommending this person? Is it your brother's cousin's uncle? Is it somebody who you know well because you've worked with them somewhere else, right? Those tend to be the biggest averages, especially in tech. You recruit one person, a whole team winds up following, right? So, but really understanding what's the execution like, and looking at that a year later and saying, how well is the referral program really working for us? I mean, we have another client that has a major part of their organization is housed in a very, very small market. And it's a manufacturing facility, it's biotechnology, and they really can't move from there. So everybody they're recruiting is a referral. I mean, you can't go, what's the story? You can't go to the grocery store without bumping into somebody you work with. Like,
Right.
it's that kind of situation. But I think we've been making recommendations, and I know that there's a fast food or organization that we've talked to too that has done the same thing. And then they actually went offshore and brought some interns in from Ireland to see the difference in the performance. And the performance from the interns was so much higher than the referrals that the decision was made to make a change. And they're actually bringing foreign talent into the middle of the US to execute this, or at least they were 2 years ago. So, how good is your referral program? Right? And should you be looking at referrals to complete this work? There could be, especially in the AI development world, it's a very myopic world, although there's a huge focus. So talking to those employees and saying, who else do you know? Who else would you recommend? As we see this floating among all large tech companies now. Anything to add about referrals or internals, Jess?
No, again, I think having a streamlined process in place for the referral, so they're vetted carefully, and then also measuring performance of those referrals will help you decide if this is the right strategy or not.
Yeah, and I think that the fail comes in that we don't see companies measuring the referrals production and
Mhm.
how well fit they are. I've seen entire departments morph. In the valley, that's a common thing, an entire department change. And that's great. If they execute by the deadline, they get the work done. But I'm going to say more than half don't. So it's understanding when it works and when it doesn't makes a difference. Again, not a solve all. It's just like, don't throw more bodies in there. Don't just make the assumption because Harry's making a reference of Sally that Sally's going to be as Harry. Measure, right? And then the last two are sourced and incoming. In the talent acquisition world, we tend to understand this really well. You know, I got I did get an email last week after I talked about this a little bit, and it's somebody that I've known for a long time who's just moved to an organization. And this is what he said. Yeah, but we don't even know how to source. So I was like, okay, that was kind of out of the blue. Like he's listening to a different presentation I was doing, and he's really like, we don't even know how to source. So in some organizations, sourcing still is not a thing, or they have the sourcing, like, they count on the staffing company to come in and do it for them when it's a tough hire or whatever the case. But when you're looking at the work to be executed and you say, well, none of the, agents aren't going to work, the contingent firm, the internal, the referrals, we really need some fresh blood here. Well, those people are already working. So post away, but the market is so loud and crowded. I mean, we see every minute of every day right now the fails in hiring, right? Pulling the trigger too fast because you're afraid you're not going to be able to get a candidate that's good, not measuring the result of the hire that happens. And all this is coming because the bulk of the hiring is coming through incoming. And then we're mad at Indeed, right? And we should be, because Indeed's doing some really wonky stuff right now. I think we all need to take a deeper look. That's a whole other chapter, right? The Workday lawsuit that's out there. I mean, really owning and understanding what's happening. We hear these things and it becomes overwhelming. Wait a minute, if Workday is my ATS, I can't really control what they're doing, right? No, that narrative is now changing, right? And we have to be empowered to babysit our own things, because not only are these suits coming through to Workday, they're coming through to the organizations. And they actually are helping us pinpoint the things that we are doing right and the things that we aren't doing wrong if we embrace them. But I think there's so much going on, it's hard not to feel flooded by this information. So just imagine what your candidate thinks, right? So if you need the work executed and you need a certain kind of talent, why would you even recommend at this point posting, Jess? Or do you think you should have a better, invest more money in source tools and organizing the search?
Absolutely. I think today, current state, you can't just post and pray anymore. You have to have a well-balanced candidate slate. Otherwise, if you just keep doing the same thing you've always been doing, you'll get the same results. And I love the new talent ecosystem idea, because I think the organizations that are going to succeed won't necessarily have the biggest recruiting teams or the best and newest technology in place. They'll be the ones that are the most connected and adaptable to this type of talent ecosystem. So they're looking at people, process, data, technology, and flexibility just to help them meet the needs of the business. So why narrow yourself to one way of recruiting when I think the new talent ecosystem really gives you a lot more flexibility and capability to find the right hires at the right time?
And all those things that you just talked about, they are all cost issues, right? I think we are going to see a great reduction in the amount of recruiting talent executing these two, right? Incoming and sourced. Once we start to look at the broader picture where there's more success and where you have more opportunities, but that also changes the skill set that we need in talent acquisition. So it's important, I think, to keep yourself educated. And I applaud the people that are here today. I would love to get the feedback of the audience on the new ecosystem, see if anybody out there is using this besides us, because I know it's a very new concept, but we're going to keep you posted. We commit every week to letting you know how we're doing as we're moving requisitions into work execution as compared to requisitions, and how to get there. We also did a program called More for Miss, which you can find on our website. Is it here on YouTube too? I think it is on YouTube.
Yes.
Take a look at that. That gives you the whole picture in a 15-minute presentation. And next week, we'll be talking about the actual position and where we're going as a work architect and what that means for you. Any closing points to make, Jess?
No, again, I think, like you said, Christine, this will definitely require a new recruiter skill set, becoming an advisor and more of a talent and work architect. And the organizations that will win the talent race are the ones that are going to be adaptable and flexible to this new type of recruitment.
So true. And you know what? It's not very often that the opportunity comes along in business to make such a dramatic change that cuts overhead, is much, much, much more effective, and reduces cost across the board. And dare I say, what's more important than a hire to your organization, to the people that it just isn't there. This is the time, and we're in the right place. So let's get moving. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to seeing you next week. Any closing words before we go, Jess?
No, thank you for joining us. And I look forward to talking more about this and getting into the work architect.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye now. Hi, and welcome.